Hey friends, I just wanted to share with you all what's been going on. Many of you know, especially those who live locally to me and go to the same church as me and all that, but there's still many friends and family that still don't know quite what's been going on over the last, well, it's been almost 10 months now. So um, I'll keep this very brief, but very, very short here. My father, many of you know my father, his name is Paul, and whatnot. So, late December last year, my father told me to please, he just asked me, please pray for me, Ames. He calls me Ames. He's like, please pray for me, Ames. I'm just, having a hard time, just, finding my words, and, so I can finish my sentences. And I'm just like, oh, okay, Dad, how has your hydration been today? And, have you been eating okay? And whatnot. And he was just like, oh, and just kind of waving me off goodbye, because I was towards the end of, me being there briefly at my parents' house. And, I had to drop something off there for them. And I didn't think anything of it. And, he was just like, no, it's okay, Eames. And so I gave him a hug. We said our I love yous, and I backed out and drove off. Well, a little bit of time goes by. A few days later, and my mom messages us in our family group thread, and she's like, you guys, something's off with Dad. I don't know what it is, but he's just not himself, and blah, blah, blah. Well, there was some cognitive decline going on. There was some hallucinations that then came over a little bit more time. There was so many other things. I just don't want to get into all the details of it, but so he went to the hospital because then he'd stopped eating and drinking on his own. So we didn't want him to get malnourished or get dehydrated. So we brought him to a local hospital, and they gave him IV fluids and took some blood work and all that. And so that was back at the end of December in 2024, right? So here we are. Now we're in the month of October 2025 of the time that I'm recording this. And things still kind of like got a little bit progressive with some cognitive decline, some hallucinations, some mental confusion. And so I was just like, okay, I know how Lyme disease can be. I know what different co-infections of Lyme disease can look like. And so the Lord just was really prompting me, like, hey, maybe this is Lyme related, because we do live, where we live, and I only live, less than 10 minutes away from my parents' house. And so we live out in the country. As you can see, there's the backwoods. That's my backyard. I'm on my deck right now. And so I was just like, maybe this is Lyme related, right? And so I expressed that to family and friends. And, I should have listened to my intuition way back then. But my mom and I both were getting a lot of pushback, from family and family members, friends. And they're just like, no, not a, is it really Lyme, and blah, blah, blah. Well, we ended up having to get him back into the hospital again because he had started again to stop eating and drinking on his own. He had like a good little spurt of eating and drinking, and then not eating and drinking, and then going back to eating and drinking again on his own. But then it was just like this vicious cycle, and I was seeing a pattern with it. And of course, we know that our central nervous system is our control center. It's our command center for all things of our bodily functions. And I know how aggressive Lyme can be, and different co-infections, or AKA strains of Lyme, can be on the central nervous system. So anyways, he went back to the hospital. He was in the hospital at a different hospital this time, again locally, and he was there for 8 days. And while he was there for 8 days, they didn't really hone in on much of his cognitive decline. So they did a lot more lab tests. They were trying to blame it on other things. They were putting my mom under the table, putting her under the bus with a lot of different things that they thought the issue was, and they turned out to not be that, which we knew that. He ended up going back home after that second time that he was at the hospital. Of course, that second time he was inpatient, like I said, for 8 days. goes back home. He's eating a little bit more on his own. My mom, all this time, has been his primary caregiver, and she has been a rock star through this whole thing. And I started to really get into more of the nitty-gritty stuff of this because I love to get answers. I am a information solution focused person, and I'm a researcher. I want to get to the nitty-gritty, to the bottom of whatever this is that's going on with my dad. So I was just like really digging in further with like, what could this possibly be that's going on with my father? Well, things didn't get any better with my dad, and he ended up having to go back into the hospital again, but that time he was about an hour away at a different hospital this time. So this is now 3 different hospitals that he's been at, and obviously some time has gone by, and so he gets to the hospital, and this is now at the early, I think beginning of June of this year, that he gets to the hospital about an hour away from us. And they're running all these blood tests, and they're like asking my mom all these questions and calling her and all these things, whatever. We got him on IV fluids, and they put him on a bridle feed too, because again, he wasn't eating or drinking on his own much, and we didn't want him to get malnourished and get dehydrated. He was dehydrated all those 3 times, even though some of his lab work was showing that he wasn't. His urinalysis was showing otherwise. And so I share all that to say, to just trust your gut instinct. God gave us our instincts for a reason. We have an intuition. He gave us those instincts for a reason. Well, we went through a lot of living hell. I will say that bluntly, while my dad was at that 3rd hospital about an hour away from home. And he was there for almost 2.5 months. And the whole time that he was there, he was bedbound like a vegetable. He could barely speak, barely communicate with any of us. He wanted to. He was showing his frustrations, like he wanted to communicate, but he couldn't. And I remember even the beginning of all of this stuff happening months prior, I was like, maybe he had a mini stroke. I don't know, like, what's going on? So again, we had like 6 or 7 different meetings at the hospital while my dad was there. It was me, my mom, some of my other siblings, either in person or on the phone, while we were having these different meetings at the hospital. And we were at the point where we were even considering hospice home health care. It was pretty bad, you guys, and it was devastating, and I'm not gonna cry. Anyways, my mom was adamant that we not move forward with hospice home health plans for my father until the infectious disease doctor there at that hospital was able to speak to me directly, because my mom has seen over the years of how educated I am and continue to educate myself and learning all these things related to Lyme, related to autoimmunities, related to inflammation in the body, related to the importance of gut health and all of that. So the internal medicine doctor that was in that meeting for that, one of the last meetings we had there at the hospital, he was like, yeah, sure, we can definitely, get you, to meet up with, to talk with another infectious disease doctor, and whatnot. Maybe we don't have to wait for this other infectious disease doctor to get back from her conference, because that's who had, was basically seeing my dad at that time, but she was getting ready to leave for an out-of-state conference for 7 or 8 days. Well, it turns out we had to wait another 7 to 8 days, actually beyond that, because she called me, the infectious disease doctor there called me a few days after she returned from her conference. And her and I had a conversation that was almost a 2-hour conversation. And she told me that she commended me with my knowledge, with Lyme and strains of Lyme, or AKA co-infection strains of Lyme, is the same thing. And I asked her if she was familiar with how many strains of Lyme that are known today, as opposed to, like, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And she was very honest with me, you guys, and it was a very important conversation that I was having with her, because she's obviously a specialist, a doctor specialized in certain infectious diseases. However, the matter was, she wasn't more in-depth trained or aware of all the different co-infections of Lyme and what they can all cause. So with that, I had requested that my father be tested for certain co-infections, just like my mom had initially asked them at the hospital when my dad was first there at the third hospital. And it was like things were going through one ear and out the other most of the time, until I was able to speak directly with the infectious disease doctor. She got certain, blood tests done for my father while he was still there at the hospital. And we did hit a brick wall, because we wanted his testing to be submitted to Igenix Laboratory in California, because they specialize with testing people with Lyme and all the things like DNA. There's also gene mutations that people have when they have Lyme tests and all the things. Long story short, my father got discharged home, and he's been on a stomach feed tube now since, I want to say, mid-July, and now it's almost mid-October. We were able to go see a doctor who specializes with Lyme, that my mom and I and my other siblings of mine have seen in the past, and she's helped us greatly with, and she's about, less than a 40-minute drive from us. And we were able to get more answers for my dad. He is in a wheelchair, but he can stand up on his own, do things on his own, obviously with some guidance. My mom is always making sure that she's right there standing next to him when he does stand up. But I will tell you guys that the day that my dad came home, which was in August, he immediately sat on the edge of the foot of his hospital bed that we have for him at my parents' house right now. And he was trying to talk a lot. And ever since he's been home, he has not been like a vegetable in bed. We have not had to worry about turning him, as they as they were telling us in the hospital and trained us for, because they were having to, what they call, turn my father every 3 hours or so that he wouldn't get bed sores on the, on the bottom of his butt or lower back area, all of that. But my mom and I both went through training. Before my dad got discharged home, we had to learn training on his stomach feed tube and how to flush his line. So we became like nurses, And my mom had to learn about his catheter, because he has also been on a catheter. So back to him seeing this Lyme literate doctor, we got answers, you guys, and we found out that he has, I believe it's now 4 different strains / co-infections of Lyme, and a rare bacteria. Now, if I had stayed persistent, I was persistent, but it was like whenever we had the medical meetings with the hospital staff and the doctors when my dad was at the third hospital, and I kept bringing up my Lyme story and how it affects the central nervous system, and can we test him for this, can we test him for that, things went through one ear and out the other, guys. So be your own health advocate, and when the person going through the health issues can't be their own advocate, you keep advocating for them, and you get to the solutions, get to the core of the matter, get to the core of the issue, whatever it is that's going on. So I will say also that when the hospital had made a call to my mom and told my mom that we needed to figure out a discharge plan home for him, we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to do. My mom was stressed, I was stressed, all of us were stressed. It's a huge emotional and mental burden, huge weight on you. And it's really strengthened my faith even more in tapping into, what the Lord has to give me for answers and his wisdom and all that. So I was really, all this time, I was asking the Lord for wisdom, asking the Lord for solutions, asking the Lord for answers. And before my dad got discharged home, and before I was able to talk to the infectious disease doctor, before she called me, I had asked the Lord, after my mom told me one day that the hospital had called her and said that we had to figure out a discharge plan home because they couldn't figure out what was going on. They've done everything that they can do. They've taken blood tests every single day that he's been there. And again, like I said, he was there for almost 2.5 months, you guys. They couldn't figure out what was going on with him. They couldn't really nail it on what the actual diagnosis was for him. Now, remember that a diagnosis is just dis-ease in the body, okay? It means that something is off, out of balance, and all the things. So, after my mom told me that night actually, that the hospital called her and said we have to figure out a discharge plan home for him, because they couldn't figure anything out. They ended up diagnosing him with something that wasn't even a proper diagnosis, because his MRI imaging showed that he didn't even have this have a certain, it's not even a diagnosis really, it was just like a kind of a type of condition. But they just slapped a label on him because I just wanted to get him out of the hospital. Well, that night, after I got off the phone with my mom, I remember it was later in the evening, and I was just like, Lord, we need answers. We need solutions. We need to figure out what is going on, because the hospital can't do anything else for us. And they're really not listening to us in a lot of different ways. And having all of what my mom and I have said to them in a variety of ways just go through one ear and out the other. And again, it's not that the doctors didn't seem like they didn't care or anything. It was beyond their scope of understanding and their scope of knowing exactly what I was talking about when it came to Lyme. And so the Lord just gave me whatever it was that he gave me that night. After I asked him for more of his wisdom, he just dropped whatever to me. I call it divine downloads into my mind. And I was just like, okay, Lord, I'm going to search this up right now. And that search turned into me getting directed to more than two different patient cases that were shared publicly on PubMed, which is the National Library of Medicine. My nutritionist years ago had introduced that to me when I was seeing her through integrative medicine, and now she practices on her own now, still with integrative medicine. But she had taught me years ago about so many important and wonderful, great researching tools on PubMed. So I went on there and I found two out of quite a few more patient cases, that almost to a T matched what we had been dealing with for my dad this whole time. So we went and saw that Lyme literate doctor. Sorry guys, I'm kind of like all over the place. I should have kept like my own like little notes to like keep me with like the the right timeline here. But a little over 6 weeks ago now, we got answers at a doctor who specializes with Lyme. And like I said, we found out that my dad had 4 co-infections of Lyme, a rare bacteria, and he also had candida overgrowth. And so my mom and I, we were relieved, and but we also know how much of a fight this is going to be, because it's going to be a lot of hard work. But I will say, as of a little over a week ago, my dad has started to eat a little bit on his own. He had 4 little platefuls of organic spaghetti that my mom made the other night, and he was talking a little bit more. Now he is on, this is the other thing, he's been on multiple rounds of antibiotics because he has gotten UTIs from the catheter use. And one of the things that I learned on PubMed was that with those certain patient cases, those patients got better with antibiotics and antimicrobials. And there is a way to do this without taking pharmaceutical antibiotics. There are like oregano oil soft gels with black seed oil in them. Those are a natural antibiotic that will not harm the gut microbes. Now you still have to be careful with taking it, because you should not take oregano oil any more than 6 weeks at a time, preferably 4 weeks at a time. But it does not kill the good gut microbes, and it is a powerhouse of an antibiotic. It's an antiviral. It has anti-cancer properties, you name it, and it's natural. So my dad has been on, we've been giving him antimicrobials through Dr. Bill Rawls' protocol, because that's liquid form, and it's something that he can be receiving through his stomach feed tube. My dad is getting better. He's able to speak sentences a lot better as well. And all of this to say, again, stick with your intuition. Keep searching for those answers, no matter what any medical system or professional doctors tell you. Get the answers you need, so that then you know what you have to do in order to get better and heal and help your body get all the right tools and support systems to get better. It has been quite a journey, and I've been wanting to document this for a while, about my dad's journey. But who would have thought that 10 years ago, when my personal journey started with Lyme and co-infections of Lyme, that I would be here today, 10 years later, dealing with this for my father. And so God is good. God hears you, and he will give you the guidance and the direction, all the answers and the solutions that you need. Just trust him every single step of the way. Listen to your intuition that he's given you. Listen to his wisdom. Listen to his knowledge, because he is an all-knowing God, and he knows what's best for us, and he will provide us with the answers that we need. We just have to sit still, trust him through the process, and listen to what he has to share with us. So I just wanted you all to know that that's where we're all at. We are making headway. He is still on the stomach feed tube. He still has a catheter, but we are making progress, and we're pretty sure that within the near future, he's going to be off both of those things, and we'll just continue with helping him, like naturally supporting his body. We have been supporting his gut microbiome with even some of my products through my favorite wellness company. I will never go without them, because we don't have all the foods easily accessible to us that help us actually nourish our gut every single day that we need to. So we do need supplementation. A lot of people say, no, you don't, because you can get it through nutrition. Yes, you can get it through nutrition. However, our crops today are very heavily depleted of all the nutrients and all the things that our bodies need to only get it through nutritionally. So we need both nutritionally and supplementation, with supporting our gut health, supporting our mitochondria, all of that. So there's that. I guess this is a lot longer than I said. I was planning to just keep this around 5-10 minutes, but we're well beyond that now. But I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you'd like to get on a call with me for a free 20-minute strategy call, discovery call, whatever you want to call it, you can go to heal.me/healthcoachamy, or you can also email me at footprints with an S at the end to healthcoaching, it's a long one, at gmail.com. So that's footprintstohealthcoaching at gmail.com. And I'm more than happy to help guide you along your journey, whether it's Lyme related, another autoimmune condition, hormonal imbalances, having troubles with your weight, whether that's to gain weight or to lose weight. I can help you with that. And, you know, mental well-being, because mental well-being is also very important. And also how to be able to regulate your nervous system so that your body can heal and actually absorb all the nutrients that you're taking in even better. All right, I guess that's it for now. Thanks again for watching, guys. God bless you, and we'll talk soon. Ciao for now.